Welcome everyone. Will be an English session, so if you need translation to French, please pick up your headphones in the entrance. Okay. So, good afternoon. We're here today to talk about a very specific topic about carbon capture. But before I go into the topic itself, let me present who I am as well and Porto Protocol before passing on the words to the other panelists. So Porto Protocol is the biggest wine industry community working on sharing solutions to address climate change. We are in more than 20 countries. We have more than 250 members spread across the wine value chain. Good, thank you. And we have some members here with us. So Diana, Miguel as well. So we have members that are wineries, so from cultivating vines to the retailers. So we have in the stage, not in the stage, but in the audience, a retailer that is part of the community. So what we do, we share solutions. We try to foster climate action in the wine industry. We want to demonstrate that leadership is our role when it comes to fight climate change. We do it in a variety of ways, but always based in practical knowledge. And what we bring here today, it's really a very niche solution, but it's growing and it's super important because climate change, of course, is connected to the CO2 that all of us produce, and the wine industry is really very sensitive to the effects of the climate change. So it's like the canary in the coal mine. I don't know if you know the metaphor. So Diana, first of all, let me present also Diana. Diana Snowden Seysses, a very cherished member of ours, part of our global steering committee, is a winemaker in Dujac here in France, and also in California. Yeah. So she will be. This is a topic of passion to you. Yeah. A long time ago, and I think inspired for Professor Roger Bolton from the UC Davis, that was one of the pioneers when it comes to carbon capture during fermentation, and that's the topic we are talking today, not carbon capture on the soils. We could be talking about that, but not today. And inspire you to look at carbon capture in your business as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Christina, and bravo, speaking with all this background noise. I'm going to try to do the same.
It's not easy.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. So I am a Californian native and Burgundian by adoption. I studied winemaking at the University of California at Davis, and when I was finishing in my very last year, I asked Roger Bolton, my professor of engineering, that very question: what about that CO2 that is coming off of our tanks in the middle of fermentation? And his answer was that the carbon dioxide that comes off of fermentation is part of the organic cycle. It will be reabsorbed by your very same vineyards that next vintage. And so it's zero. It doesn't count. We don't have to worry about it. Fast forward to 2 decades later, and when we were redoing our winery at Domaine Dujac, in the meantime, Roger Bolton had designed a prototype for capturing CO2 and converting it to bicarbonate. So I got back in touch with him. We decided if we were going to redo our winery, why not plumb the tanks to take off the CO2? And I got back in touch with him, which is what brought me to Porto Protocol in 2020. So at this stage, did you want to say? At this stage, we are ready to capture our carbon dioxide. We have not, this is like Christina said, this is very niche. CO2 capture is the cherry on the icing, on the cake, on the plate, on the table, in the house that is sustainability. And our companies are addressing many, many subjects in tandem with CO2 capture. But what I was going to tell you a little bit about is why is that cherry so interesting? Did you want to say something?
No, because I don't know if everyone knows, but the effluent that comes out of the fermentation process is almost pure CO2. So it's an opportunity to the industry to look at this effluent.
That's right. Anyone who works with a fermentation knows when they stick their head in the tank that it is almost pure carbon dioxide. It stings your eyes, it suffocates you. You have to be very careful about the safety of your workers because of that carbon dioxide. So during, what makes that CO2 interesting is because it is the byproduct of all of the hectares that we farm being digested in one place at one moment, filling up the building. And what we do up until now is just let it blow out the windows. But it's right there waiting to be captured and to be a negative emission. It is one of the few points in the winemaking and grape growing process that is a negative emission. That's what's so exciting about it. The other thing is that it is clean. And when we talk about scrubbing CO2 from stainless steel production or from cement production, that is not nearly as concentrated and not nearly as clean. So our carbon dioxide is really very interesting, and I'll let Miguel talk more about it. But at this stage, I am just a potential client. I've seen many different prototypes. That's where this technology is. It's in the prototype phase, and there are many out there. So the question, from everything from making fizzy drinks to making bicarbonate to making diamonds, the question you want to ask yourself when you're talking about CO2 is how much energy is required and what percentage of it are you managing to capture, because some of it gets wasted and lost. As you can imagine, making diamonds, shifting a gas to a solid requires a lot of energy. So their system is super smart because it uses mainly sunshine, but I won't talk about it anymore. But so we are ready to capture our CO2 and waiting for the right company to set up their scrubber right behind our winery because all of the tanks are plumbed to one spot and ready to go.
Okay, great. So we know the challenges. We know how possibly most of you are winemakers, what we could do at least to be ready to be capture carbon from our fermentation process. And Miguel,
Hello.
Hello. So he's leading a European project called, let me see the name correctly because it's big. It's Redwine, how to create value with CO2 and wine effluents from wineries. So looking also in a circular perspective to our industry. And it's a very unique. We had a workshop at the Porto Protocol where we explored all these kind of techniques. And yours indeed popped up as being, at least it seems, very easy to implement and with a lot of effect. So tell us a little bit about the red wine, how it came to life and what it is.
Yes. Thank you very much, Christina. So I'm going to ask for my presentation because we have some PowerPoint slides. It's
Okay.
much better.
Maybe in that chair you see better, no?
It's much better to see some pictures instead of just talking.
Good.
Well, nevertheless, before we having the slides, I'm just going to present myself. So my name is Miguel. I come from Peninsula de Setúbal, Portuguese wine region. So let me invite you to check it in Hall 4 to go there and drink some of the wines coming from there. I'm also representing Avipe. Avipe is a grapevine growers association. Yeah, it's a grapevine growers association, but we have been, no, not the video, sorry, not the video. The video is the last one. Okay. I was saying Avipe is a grapevine grower association. We mainly, of course, work with extension services covering about 5,000 hectares of vineyards, but we have started to do some applied research, being involved in some European projects. That's okay, thank you. And of course, some of the trials go to experimental winery. So looking back at the Redwine project, so as you can see on the right side is about the partners that are being involved. Some of course, from Portugal, Spain, France, the Netherlands, Germany, and Ireland. And on the left side, you can see the structure of the project. So we have the first pillar is about business model that Kata is going to talk after me. And then we have the pillar regarding the technology to capture the CO2. We also have the pillar regarding how to use that CO2 and as well the wine effluents coming from the wineries. And then we have the pillar regarding the LCA and of course the development of using the algae to food. But what is red wine? Red wine is, the main idea is to capture the CO2 from the wine fermentations and to use that algae, that CO2 in algae reactors. We have two kind of reactors, the ones that are going to use the CO2 coming from the fermentations, but we are also producing algae coming from the use of wine effluents. And the origin of the idea came quite early on another European project that we started to develop the chart regarding the circular economy on wine industry. And you can see some of the residues that we have considered, pruning residues, the stalks, the pomace and the leaves, and possible valorization, even considering what kind of scale, if it is industrial level, consumer, on farm, or even local municipalities. And as you can see here in the bottom, it pop up like the CO2 from fermentation as a possible solution or possible residues coming from the wineries. So the project started in 2021, and we have it started in April. And in order not to lose the harvest of 2021, we were being able to capture this CO2 on these balloons. It was not compressed; it was just taken off and stored. And you can see on the right side, we use the flat panel reactor just to test it. And what we need to develop mud algae, it's the sunshine, the sun, of course, and the CO2. So we made a way to connect that CO2 in the balloons to the flat panels, and then it's starting to create algae. So of course this was the validation. Let's talk like this. And in 2023, we were already able to install a unit to capture the CO2 from a 25,000 liters tank on a cooperative in Palmela region. And we were just from one tank, we were able to capture 2 tons of CO2. And for 2024, we were also being able to capture another 2 tons, plus the 28 cubic meters of the wine effluents. How is this being more or less built? So we have this unit, as you can see, the raceway. I don't know if the raceway. The raceway is that oval tank. It's going to develop the algae with the wine effluents, and the tubular reactor are going to use the CO2. It's important to say that we can't use both, so we have to split, because the algae that are being processed with the wine effluents cannot be used for human food, because we cannot, is a regulatory issue. As you can imagine, we cannot drink the wine effluent, so we need to split. However, the CO2 that it comes from the fermentations, we are talking about 98% pure CO2. So we are going to use it on this tubular reactor. And then, yes, the biomass is going to grow. We are going to harvest that biomass, and it's going to be used for development of food and cosmetics. So this picture was taken in October, and now it's increasing. So we are installing the raceway, and hopefully by the end of March, we will have everything ready and running. So as a preliminary results, we already had this brioche coming from our partner, French partner, that we have tasted. We have tasted in Barcelona in October. Yes, they were sweet, and we were just including 1% of chlorella protein fraction. And we also tasted this jelly food. Here the idea is to replace the protein sources. So we are talking about chlorella. It had a high content of protein. We are developing this salmon replacement and tuna replacement food. We think, of course, it needs some chef expertise to really make it appetizer, because I do believe that if any of you have already tasted chlorella, it knows that the smell is quite intense. But there's always a technique to remove the aroma. And I think, yes, we are on the right path. What we, in any case, Avipe have done is we have used as well the biomass as trying to understand possible uses in vineyards as a biostimulant, as a biofungicide, helping and enhancing the flowering or the fruit set. So we have done that in the demo fields, always with random blocks to have a statistical good background. And we have also tested the use of extracts of chlorella in clarification or fining on the white wine. And we also have suggested a possible use as an antioxidant. We have seen the contents of the carotenoids and polyphenols in the wines that we have used chlorella are much higher than the ones that we didn't use. And we also figure out that without adding any kind of dioxide sulfur, we were able to store the wine for more than 1 year. So this is just possible solutions. We are just trying. There's lots of failure, of course, in all this process, but we need to keep trying. So the steps for 2025, it's to keep doing the trials, trying probably to use the ketosane because it's also could be coming from the chlorella extracts. So there are several of the challenges that we are probably considering on the 2025 season. And on your right side, you can see a picture. Those are the bundles there we store the CO2. And the cooperative that we are talking with, they are using it on inertization on the bottling stage. So as far as I understood, coming from the winery, they need the CO2 to make the inertization of the bottles. And they were used to spend like 1.6 tons of CO2 per year. That would cost about 11,000 euros. And considering a solution like this, they could probably save that amount of money. So it's another thing that happened during the project. Now, yes, oh, sorry. Now it's the video. So this is the picture. And while I'm just finishing my talk, I'm just going to ask you to check the video. So this is one picture of our wine region. So most of the region, we do machine harvest. You can see this is the winery we're talking about. Christopher, the guy, this is the tank we close. And there's a continuous system of piping that goes all around the winery and goes to the unit that is being built. This is the promotional video. This is our experimental winery where we do the trials. Yeah, and so this is basically the project. Of course, if you have more questions, if you have some doubts, I'll be more than happy to answer to your questions. And I'm going to pass to Kata, right?
Yeah, but just let me ask you a few things. So maybe we never thought that the CO2 that we produce, it could be used to produce food, to incorporate again in our soils, to be used again in the winery. So this is a huge potential to explore as well. So it's still on the pilot stage, yeah, indeed. But probably you had a lot of people interested in taking a look of what you've been doing around and asking questions and understanding how can we put this in practice. But Kata, Kata is joining us from Ireland. She's an innovation consultant, and will be, I think so, explaining the business model behind the project. So how can we, in a way, she's going to explore how we're going to put this project, that it's still a project, into a practice to the wineries, yeah?
Yes, that's correct. So
okay, thank you.
My name is Kata Trifkovic. I'm coming from INLECOM Commercial Pathways. More? Okay. It's almost like an ice cream. I'm coming, as I'm saying, from INLECOM Commercial Pathways. We are a consultancy that works exclusively with researchers, scientists, and technology developers in helping them assess the market potential of their innovations and guiding the process of bridging that gap from science, from lab to actual market exploitation and an actual customer. So this is what we are doing in the scope of the Redwine project as well. And if I can have my slides, I will bring you through the work that we have been doing that is basically trying to assess if there is an interest from the customer for such a solution. So I'll stand up as well, and I'll try not to fall over on the other side. I have to press. Okay, I have to press. Thank you. Yeah. So let's see if there is an actual business case behind this innovation. We heard from Miguel that there is an excellent project. We heard from Diana as well that there is a need for something like this in the market, that there are wineries that would be possibly interested in implementing such a solution. But let's see how it actually plays out when you start communicating with a customer. So reiterate, Miguel has mentioned this, but let's just reiterate for the sake of the clarity. The main proposition of the Redwine project is to reduce wine industry carbon and water footprints. How we are planning to do so and how is this set out in the projects that we are developing? We will try to incentivize the transition of any wine producer to a business model where they can, in an innovative, circular, and sustainable way, diversify their businesses and increase the value for their stakeholders. So here on the slides, and let me just try to see if this works. No, it doesn't. So on the left-hand side, you see that the main customer that we are targeting, obviously, is the wineries. What we are proposing is to implement the Redwine solution that includes capturing CO2 released during the fermentation, but also the water effluent that is used in the wine production and repurposing it in a different way than it was done so far, or basically repurposing it to get the value out of it. How we are proposing to do that is to grow the microalgae. So to use the CO2 as a carbon input for the microalgae growth and to use this water effluent in the same process. From there on, when this microalgae biomass has been produced, we can then think about different types of applications for this biomass. It can be used as is, or it can be further refined for high-value ingredients that can be used in different industries, and these include cosmetics, bioplastics, agricultural application, and in some cases, as Miguel was showing as well, food. So let's move on to see how this is actually feasible. I have mentioned that we work directly with customers to try to understand their value, to try to understand what they actually want to get out of this particular solution, and more importantly, to understand what are their problems that they would like to face. So in order to have this as a solution implemented in the market, very early in the project, as soon as we had preliminary results, we have set up a direct way of communicating with customers. These included different outlets. Firstly, what we did is that we invited a targeted number and targeted groups of wineries across the 4 wine-growing regions in Europe, that being Portugal, France, Spain, and Italy, to join a closed group, which we called Redwine Commercial Ecosystem Cluster, in which we communicated the value proposition of Redwine, in which we showcased the outcomes of the projects and developments of the projects, and in which we also managed to get their preliminary inputs and thoughts on this proposition that we are trying to sell them. Once that has been set up and running, we then realized that we need more one-on-one understanding and more detailed understanding of customer needs and customers' intentions to implement in similar solutions. So what we did is basically we organized a structured interviews with a set of wineries from Portugal, and we also included as a potential customer one beer brewery in Ireland. Obviously, beer is produced throughout the year, and there is a lot of CO2 produced in the beer industry as well. We had conversation with each of these particular actors, with each of these stakeholders, asking them, okay, what are your problems in terms of sustainability? How would you like to see this solved? And then we showcased the value propositions of Redwine, highlighting what we can do for them, and finally ask them, would you do something like this in your business? These structured interviews, they were more intimate, let's say, more one-on-one basis, helped us develop a comprehensive survey in a form of an online tool, which we could then distribute to the wider audience, and we did that in this Redwine commercial ecosystem that I mentioned at the beginning. Just for the sake of reference, we have like 150 members in this ecosystem cluster. We distributed the survey, and we asked for the input on the Redwine value proposition. So what is the Redwine value proposition actually, and what we have been asking them to evaluate and to tell us, would this be something of interest for them? Firstly, we highlighted the carbon footprint reduction of up to 30% on the demo scale that we were implementing this. Secondly, we showcase that it is possible to reuse the water effluent that has been utilized in the wine production. Then we show them that it is possible to substitute commercial fertilizer and biopesticides with algal biomass and obtain good results that have been demonstrated in Avipe. We suggested the white quality improvement by reducing the oxidation with the CO2 recirculation in the system. And finally, we showcase them that we can offer opening of the new revenue streams. Those being capturing CO2 and selling it, or producing biomass and selling it, or going one step further and biorefining for a specific target ingredients that they can be further sold in food industry or cosmetics, as I mentioned, and so on. On the right-hand side, you can see the main outcomes of these conversations, which highlights what these wineries, and as you can see here, large wineries, are most interested in. So we asked them to assign 1 to 5 number to each of the five value propositions that we suggested, and ask them to highlight which one is the most relevant for them in their businesses and in their current practices. And you can see here that the most not at all not expected is water footprint reduction. We know that Europe is facing the extreme droughts across the previous years, but also carbon footprint reduction, with wine quality improvement being the third one, and going all the way to the last one, which is new revenue streams. So this gave us an understanding of, an initial understanding of how should we scope this project going forward, what are the main parts we should be paying attention to, and how can we actually help the consortium of Redwine project to move forward and bring this solution closer to the market. Here, but Miguel already showed this, is just for the sake of me not talking too much about use cases. You can see how is the state of current state of this solution that we are talking. On the left-hand side, you see carbon capturing unit with specific in blue. I'm not sure if you can actually read it, but specific components of the solution, and it comes again, as you can see here, in a small container. Then in top right, you see the raceway bioreactor, so the open pond bioreactor that is used to produce microalgae, and in the bottom right part, you can see, as Miguel as well also showed, a prototype of the photobioreactor. So this presented on the slide is basically the main part of our Redwine solution, and it is nice to see it in place. This is on a winery level in Portugal. So what we have learned so far from our customers potential customers when trying to understand what are their needs. Our opportunities from the project side are obviously we have piloted and we have demonstrated the efficiency of all of these components. We have demonstrated the efficiency of the process. We have also showcased that we can improve the sustainability of the wine-making process by capturing CO2 and repurposing it, and also by revaluing the wine effluent water from the wine-making process. To align with the various EU policies, which I'm sure most of you will be familiar with, this also supports wineries in aligning their businesses, aligning their business goals and sustainability targets with such policies and such regulations that is inevitably coming in the future. And what also was highlighted to us as an important aspect of it when doing a market research is that this type of solution have potential to bring more skilled workforce in rural areas. This is one of the main targets of the Common Agricultural Policy Agreement, to bring more skilled workers in the rural areas. This solution can do that and bring bioengineers, biotechnologists, and so on. However, as is the case usually with all the innovative and novel solutions, we have encountered many challenges, and I'm here not going to talk about technological challenges, but the challenges from the perspective of implementing this and business feasibility. In order to implement such a solution, of course, you have to have some investment capital to start with. You need some investment to start the process. From the perspective of the business case, this is very much dependent on the size of the winery. This is very much dependent on the outputs, on the outputs that we would like to get. And this is something that we are working on a specific level size, winery level size, to understand what would be the return on investment there as well. What are the other challenges that we can see is the storage of CO2. You know that the wine is produced for just a couple of months, but we have to store this CO2 for prolonged periods to grow microalgae. Obviously, the complexity of biorefinery, including the economy of scale, meaning that we have to have a lot of input in order to produce the outputs that are economically feasible, and some of the things that Miguel tackled upon, possible regulatory challenges in the application side of the things, where we can apply such solutions, can these biomass be used in the food production, and so on. I also mentioned that when talking with wineries, when talking with potential customers, there has been noticed a lack of interest, let's say it like that, to become a now microalgae producer. Why would anyone want to do that? They are a wine producer. So from the aspect of diversifying revenues, we haven't seen a lot of interest, but from the aspect of capturing CO2, definitely. So where does this bring us in terms of future for the red wine solution? We have been talking at the beginning of different, how this can be implemented in industry as a business model that works. And what we have started with, obviously, again, to reiterate, still work in progress, but what we have started with is this integrated solution, this idea where on a winery scale level, we will have the CO2 capture, we will have the microalgae production, and we will have refining of the ingredients that can be further sold to the specific stakeholders. This circle nicely the entire process and help in cases where there is an interest among the wineries, help diversify the revenues. However, this is not always the case, and this is not something that is of interest, especially for the smaller scale wineries. So the business model that can be used there is to basically centralize the biorefining of the ingredients, which would mean that in a specific region, wineries would work on CO2 capture, and they would work on in-house production of microalgae, and then those microalgae biomass would be either sold as is or would be brought to this centralized biorefinery for further use. And the third most likely scenario would actually be that each given winery will implement the component for CO2, so for carbon storage, for carbon capture and storage, and then the entire process of microalgae production and of biorefining for the specific ingredients would be done on a regional, small scale, large scale, depending on the regional needs, hub where all the wineries will have access to. This is something that is already present in the European agricultural space. Similar cooperative agreements exist in the milk industry, so it's not something that's not it's not feasible to implement. And as it is now, it seems that this is the most realistic case we will be pursuing further. However, the solution, as you can see, has a wide range of facilities that it can offer. So that would be it from my side. Thank you, Diana, and thank you for
Thank you,
listening.
Katja. So maybe Diana, after seeing the presentation of this kind of solution, what pops up to your mind? How much this costs? It is possible to me, or?
Well, I have already done the groundwork. Our winery is plumbed. Every single tank has a hose to lead the carbon dioxide out of the winery to one central location.
And in terms of investment, because probably we have other wineries here, does it mean a huge investment just to?
No,
No?
we decided to use stainless steel pipes, which we didn't have to. You really can use PVC pipes. So the whole cost, I believe, for us was 7,000 euros. I visited Smito Lafitte and Chateau Montrose, and they used PVC, and they're much, much bigger,
Yeah.
and their costs were much lower. I don't have the exact number, but it was a lot cheaper.
Okay.
On the other hand, I spoke to them about how they managed their carbon dioxide capture during fermentation. They were making bicarbonate, which involved filling their reactors with big fat, 1-ton bags of carbonate and evacuating ton bags of bicarbonate in the middle of harvest. And so you're already processing grapes, and then in tandem you have to process these chemicals, and that held absolutely no interest. But the idea of having a container arrive in the back of my winery where I plug in my CO2 and put it into your container and ship it off to you where you make whatever you want to make is very appealing, because for a producer, what we'd really like to see is to meet Paris Agreement goals and get to zero emissions. And we're quite far from that. And in order to get there, we're going to need these negative emissions, which are we have these punctual opportunities in the process of grape growing and winemaking. So the CO2 from our fermentations is one of the very few opportunities for negative emissions.
Yeah, no doubts. Miguel, does the process in this case is energy free almost, if we are talking about doing just the part that Diana presented now, so capture CO2 and storage in containers without pressing them? It's compressed in the containers.
The compression process of the CO2 is the most demanding.
Of course.
So the way that we capture the CO2, we are using PVC. It's much cheaper. But then the CO2 goes to the container, and as Kata said and showed in the pictures, there are some sort of compressor. And yes, we are still doing the LCA analysis regarding the amount of energy.
LCA, it's
life cycle analysis. We do believe that in some of the cases we can reduce that amount by using solar panels. We are talking in a cooperative that has plenty of roof to install solar panels. But yes, it's the most consumption. The need of energy is bigger in the compressions in the rest of the parties, it's almost zero energy.
Zero energy. Okay. So because Katya, you talk about investment, so something that people were afraid in a way, or was one of the challenges. But do you have the idea of that? Some numbers behind the investment according to the size? No, not yet.
So it is very, as I mentioned, the investment will definitely depend. The numbers, let's say, definitely depends on the size of the wineries we are implementing this to, and we know, like we have talked with us from really small scale wineries, like producing up to 100,000 liters of wine per year, with the large scale wineries producing around 5 million liters per year. So for the exact numbers, I am looking at my colleague who actually did the exact numbering, but I don't think I can give on top of the head. This is something, as I'm saying, it's something that is really case on case based. So what you have to take into account is obviously you need a specific place where you can put this particular solution. Again, depending on what solution is. If Diana says she is only interested in CO2 capturing, you have seen the container. It still comes with a series of different equipments inside that has to be on a proper, and Miguel can talk a lot about this, proper area with specific construction requirements and so on. And then from there, it has to have an operator, but still it has to have an operator, it has to have a maintenance and so on. So to say any particular number is a very difficult challenge. And I know it's at the end of the day what all wants to know, how much is this going to cost. But again, it will depend on your particular needs, on the size, and of course on what's happening after with the CO2.
Of course.
And sorry, Christina, just to finish, because we are talking from our side a lot. We just wanted, if available to you, you can go to the Mentimeter, use this code or scan. I'm not sure if you can scan. Miguel is a little bit blocking the code. You can go on the menti.com and use the code presented there on the slide and tell us your opinion on this. We would be really looking forward to hearing from you, to just provide us with a further insights on your thoughts that will help Miguel and the team further develop this solution.